What's up, everybody? Welcome once again to another episode of Blockbuster Mentality. I'm your host, Ben. Before we get started, make sure you give us a 5-star review on iTunes. Helps us out a lot. We'd really appreciate it. Takes you 5 seconds. We've been climbing those charts, so help us to continue climbing those charts. Hope you've been enjoying the last few episodes. Think you're going to be enjoying them some more because we have another great show for you today. Today we have on actor, director, writer, playwright John Pollono, who just released his film Small Engine Repair. It came out in September, now streaming on Amazon Prime, basically anywhere you can rent or buy movies via the interwebs. He not only directed the film, he wrote it, he starred in it, and also it is based on the play he wrote about it and starred in with John Bernthal. John Bernthal is also in the movie, Shea Wiggum. Definitely check it out. It's a great film. We talk about that a little, but the film, since we're a show that has actors and people in the biz on to just dissect their favorite films. The film we'll be discussing with John today, me and Dave, is Do the Right Thing, a Spike Lee joint. We really get into this thing, and yeah, it's definitely, if you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. I mean, it's been 30 years, so it's time, and we spoil it, so get over it. But I found that even when people, listen to episodes where they haven't seen the film, they still go and watch it and are, with the perspective that, we had on it, and they still enjoy it. So, yeah. Hope you guys enjoy the episode. This is me and Dave talking with John Pollono on Do the Right Thing. What do you got? Is that a what Petramal pizza? What's that shirt?
Petramali pizza. It's my buddy's. He sent me the sweatshirt. He started this pizza business. He's a former pro boxer, and I trained with him for a long time. He's got a boxing gym, and he started this mobile pizza business that has like the best New York pizza in LA. Okay. And he sent me the hoodie, and he's always like, "Why don't you wear it? Put it on social media." So I was like, "Fuck it, I'll wear it on the podcast."
There you go.
I don't know if so.
Yeah, he'll be our sponsor for free.
Well, yeah. You should have him on the podcast, man. You've never met a bigger character than this guy.
Yeah, send us his info. We have anybody on, for sure. Come on,
and just anybody.
Just anybody. It's off the street, Just it's Tampa. You can find a bunch of weirdos here. So, what's the movie you're working on with Hulk Hogan?
Oh, it's this Netflix movie. Todd Phillips is directing. It's like a biopic type thing.
Really?
About Hulk.
So are you writing? Is that what you said, or?
Yeah, we were deep. We're pretty, pretty far along. We're in our notes phase.
Gotcha. And then we are obviously going to get into the movie. But yeah, we can talk about you a little bit if you want, or we can get into the movie first. I mean, we're a very casual show.
Do you want to talk about yourself, John?
What's that?
Do you want to talk about yourself, or do you want to get into the movie?
Whatever you guys want to do.
I would like to make you as uncomfortable as possible. By the way, usually when we ask people about projects or things they're doing, everybody, in Hollywood, they always clam up. They don't want to say anything because they're afraid the whole thing is going to get nuked if they say anything. So even that little bit you revealed, I appreciate that because people just want to know, and I don't know why everybody has to be so tight-lipped about everything. So
well, I think in this day and age where, and I saw it sort of happen in my lifetime with that Ain't It Cool News and stuff where, just there's such a propagation of blogs and social media and everything that the word can spread so fast. And man, I think it's always with the Hulk Hogan thing. Like I can't, you sign so much stuff. You don't want to be the asshole who blows up a movie because you said something dumb.
Right. So do we need to edit that out or?
No, I mean, it's well known that I'm working on it, but I can't do like a plot point thing or anything. You know, people are always asking for that, and I'm like, I'm not going to be the guy who spoils that. It's not like Hulk Hogan. I think of everything I've ever worked on, that's the one that's probably most scrutinized. Most other stuff, you know, like most movies, it's just better to work on them sort of in private and then have people like pleasantly surprised when they came out, you know?
Yeah.
And if you got like the superhero shit or the Star Wars, then obviously that's like there's a rabid fan base. But like the truth of the matter is no matter what you do or say, there's part of the fan base is gonna be pissed.
Oh yeah.
So like, who wants to deal with that?
When you say superhero shit, are you placing yourself in the Martin Scorsese camp, or was that just a flip?
No, I mean, look, I watch those movies. I enjoy them quite a bit, but I think that they're, you know, there's like you know, it's like opening, it's like knowing what you got for present for Christmas. There's like there's sort of a joyful toy-like quality to them. It's not like they're not deep movies, you know what I mean? But you watch them to see what the plot point is and all that. But
exactly.
Yeah. And
you know,
yeah,
like,
plus with, you know, the whole Marvel thing, it's cool that everything's interconnected, and, you know, sometimes it is just, you know, it's filth, and it's just like, you know, vomit.
Well,
on
it's
screen.
like,
it's just
yeah, man, it's pop culture, and it's cool.
Yeah.
Like I read comic books as I was a kid, and I get the same joy out of the movies as I did the comic books, which sometimes you're like, this is kind of ridiculous. Like,
right.
You know what I mean? It's almost like porn. Like, you know what's going to happen. Yeah. But it's still super enjoyable, you know, and a lot of those characters you kind of grow up with and you see them, and it's like, you know, the endless debates.
Yeah, definitely.
It's just kind of fun.
Now, as Dave was kind of alluding to, so like John Bernthal, is he a total dick?
Huge asshole.
Yeah.
You know, man, he's one of those guys that like, he's you know, he's the real deal. Like when you meet him, he everybody loves him, you know.
Yeah.
Some people sometimes think he's ridiculous, but everyone loves him. He's so sincere and so hardworking, and like, you know, he's one of those few people I've met where like if you're hanging out with him, you like he knows how to focus on somebody and they can feel real important, like they're the only person in the room and stuff.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, he's a real generous, really good stand-up guy.
Yeah, because I mean, he plays such, you know, intense characters a lot of times, and yeah, it's just like, usually guys who are like that are typically nice guys in real life, where, you know, you got some guys who play like nice guys all the time, and when you find out they're a dick, it's just like, oh, really?
I think he knows how. I think he knows how fortunate he is, you know, to be doing what he does, and he's a very grateful human being. And you know, if you're cool with him and upfront with him, he's just great. I mean, look, I've seen him lose his temper and, you know, get pissed, but he's like, you know, just if you're stand up and you're honest and you're cool with him, which not everyone is in this industry, but then, you know, you get a friend for life.
Well, we might as well talk about that a little bit. This small engine repair. That's why I brought John Bernthal up. For those of you who don't know, he stars, and you also do, in the movie you directed and wrote. How did this film come about? How long were you writing it? Like, what can you tell us about this film?
Sure. Well, thanks for watching it. Appreciate it. So John and I did it. I started out my career as a playwright, and Small Engine Repair was a play. It was a 70-minute one-act play that was done late night at my theater company in 2011. That's how I met John. He was in the cast, as was I. It was a four-hander, and we did it at 10:30 at night after the other play, Sunset Limited by Cormac McCarthy, had a sort of dilapidated apartment set. You know, it was a two-hander, and then when they vacated the theater, we put a bunch of our shit out on the stage and used their lighting schematic and their soundboard and everything, and we just ran our play. And it was like late night, so you were expected to be edgier and have some hooks to it and unfiltered. So I had written quite a few plays at that point, but this is the first time I wrote something where I was like, I'm not going to hold back. I'm going to make it really like thought-provoking, edgy, graphic, and vulgar and everything, because who shows up at a theater at 10:30 at night? They're pretty adventurous, and most of them have been drinking. And so you want to create something that's really gripping and works on multiple levels. So that's how that material originated, and it was a huge hit, and it transferred multiple times. It's been done all over the world at this point. I did it again in New York City, and then John and I were always like, hey, this would be so great. A lot of the themes that the play dealt with became more and more relevant. So two things, just on a practical level, Small Engine Repair, the play, is primarily one location. It's all one location. It's all one
Right.
scene. But when you make an independent film, it's primarily one location. It's easier. You know what I mean? Like you're
Yeah.
not every time. You know how it is. Every time you move a set, it's money, it's time. So
Right.
it was baked in that concept that it would be like a good independent movie that's actor driven and can make a splash because it's edgy and it really has something to say. But the themes, especially with the Me Too movement, a lot of the themes that the play dissected became even more relevant. Social media and all the dangers of that, and a lot of the the concepts of people like guys like me and even grew up in certain neighborhoods starting to like really look at what masculinity means and is in this modern world. So we were just like, we got to make a movie. And I was working on other studio jobs and other shit. And then I was just sort of writing. I've adapted books. So it was interesting to adapt my own play. And I had to sort of crack it open, treat it as if someone else wrote the play, but really take what worked in the play and see how it translated cinematically within a feasible way.
Sure.
There's no car chases. You can only, you got to keep it contained still and have it character driven and actor driven. So so then we had a runway with John's schedule and we got Shay and then we cast, Sierra and everybody else. And it was like, we're off to the races. And
Yeah,
it's going to click.
That's someone who I feel needs to be more of a household name. Is Shay? Is it Wiggum? Is that how you pronounce it?
Shay Wiggum, yeah.
Yeah. Everything he's in, man. He blows me away. He's again needs to be out there more, and people.
I don't know how you could get out there more than Shay. I mean, like he's in everything.
Yeah.
I'm watching movies all the time, and I'm like, oh shit, Shay's in American Hustle, and there he is. But yeah, I think that the surprising thing with Shay that I certainly saw was, he plays a lot of heavies and he has a lot of supporting parts, but to get him out front playing like a lead character, really seeing the sort of humanity and the humor and the sort of poignancy that he brought to that role, I thought was really cool because, audiences have seen him in so much stuff. They've just never seen him quite like this.
Right. Yeah.
What are your challenges directing the action on a stage versus when you're behind the camera? What's the difference there for you? What's high low points for each maybe?
Well, man, the whole apparatus of this movie was designed from the beginning for me to be like, look, I'm going to direct and I'm going to be in it, and I rehearsed extensively prior to shooting, so I was really trying to create a system that was like a performance delivery system. And the DP I worked with, Matt Mitchell, and everything worked way ahead of time. So there were no surprises. We knew the look, we knew the shots, but it was never going to be something that like the camera didn't lead the story. The actors did, the characters did. And the characters are always a little bit ahead. So just had to nail the performances and get incredible actors who listened and create the life in it. And then once we were there shooting, obviously there's decisions to be made, there's stuff to know, but I had such confidence in the actors inhabiting those roles and living it. And we had a roadmap with this script, a battle-tested story that worked on stage that that I knew there would be no surprises in. And I mean, it was scary as shit. It was really sometimes to be hard. Sometimes it was easier to be in front of the camera than it was to be behind it, because when you're in the moment, it's really fun and you're so vibrantly alive in it, you can't think of anything else.
Yeah.
And then I would go behind the camera and just do some other stuff, which I love too. But I was always like, gosh, it was like, if you're there and sitting in the bathwater, it's like sometimes easier.
I don't know if I've spoken to a director who's also been in the movie. Like, but probably a silly question, but does the director decide that it's not a good take, or do you take advice from others? Like, let's try that again. Like, how does that work? When
that's a really great question, and it took a couple of days to really get a pattern. I mean, the first few days I was like, I don't want to be on camera. I just shot pickups and little things. I shot, the scene between Sueno and his sisters was the first days, and some exteriors with Shay on the bike and stuff like that, just to kind of get that rhythm. But look, it's a really good question. If you have a bigger budget or a different style of this, after every take, you could get up out of your scene and walk over to Video Village and watch it on video. But that would fuck with the sort of, I'm sorry, can I say fuck in this?
Oh yeah, I can say anything you want.
I figured as much, but I've been actually gotten in trouble on a few things. So you fuck with the rhythm, bless you, the rhythm of it, because if you're always pausing and stopping, and by the way, in the time it took to walk over to that monitor and watch that take, you could have just shot another thing. So I always knew what I wanted to do, and I had to trust my DP that to make it look good and look cool. Shot not documentary style, but in enough of like, this is real life. Did you get it or did you not? Did you capture it? And it's not about the pristine framing of the image and all that stuff, although that was, you know, crucial in some cases. But the composition of it, we kind of talked about ahead of time. It was just like, make it feel real. And then I knew when I had what I needed story wise, but I really relied on these actors. They had a ton of, you know, ability to say, hey, I want to try it again. I want to try it this way.
Yeah.
I know you got what you wanted to, but can I just do another one? Sure.
Right.
As long as we had time to within reason. But then you let them do that. And, you know, I mean, look, sometimes they're right. Sometimes they're not. But if you give someone the agency to do that, they're complicit in the whole thing. You know, as an actor, I've always, you know, sometimes you just feel like a piece of the machinery and you're just there. And, you know, to some stuff, and then you watch the finished result and you're like, oh, that's cool. But that's not what this movie was. I wanted the actors to really feel like they had that control and that investment. And it really paid off because we didn't have a ton of money or, you know, time, but we had a lot. And the performances in this movie are as good as, you know, anything you would get on any budget level in the sense of giving them that casting well and getting that opportunity. Yeah. But still, I mean, honestly, dude, the truth of the matter is sometimes I'd be like, all right, we got it. And I'm like, I don't know. I hope like, I don't know if it could be better than that, but that's good.
That's where trust comes in. You know?
Well, you know, man. I mean, that's one skill you do develop in theater is you know when it feels truthful.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure.
You know, or when it feels fake. And as long as it felt truthful, there's no wrong way to do it if it's truthful and if it's inhabited in an authentic, truthful way. Yeah, as long as the actors are not lying, it's usable. And then your edit, when you work with a great editor, you link the story that you want to tell by through this. But someone like Shay, who's fucking brilliant because that guy is such a pro, he's like, he gives you 8 different flavors. Let me try it with this way. So you may have that. And John Bernthal is just very intense and always real. And John doesn't like to do like a chunk of it. He wants to do the scene again because he wants to build up to that moment. He doesn't want to just be like, let me give you that line. You know, that's not how he works. So, you know, but by the end of that, especially the core guys, the 3 guys, we just had such a banter and a rapport that it was always something going on. Right. And in the edit room, maybe that's not what you want and you have to go over here and here, but it's always something.
Yeah, definitely. Well, yeah, because I mean, when you're on stage, I mean, you can't do it again. Like, there's no second takes when you're on stage. Right. So yeah, you just gotta play it truthfully, and yeah, that's you
gotta go through it. There's no second take on that, and then you got to do it again the next day. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
You can't make it. Tell.
What's that?
When you're watching a movie or just a bad TV show or something, you can tell when it's not true and when they're not into it, when they are just retaking a line or something. And so, you know, when you get to, I guess a movie's never really done until, you know, the budget runs out when we're done shooting or something, because you could always go back and change things.
But you can tell, you know what's funny, man? It's weird, but like when I smoke weed, for some reason, that IQ factor of being route out bullshit when I'm watching something, it's like amplified. I don't know what it is about it.
It's like this.
But when I mean, like I usually can do it, but when I'm smoking weed, you know, I'm watching, I'm like, wow, I can. Maybe it's just because I'm high, but like I'm like I can tell when that actor or whatever is just has something else going on, and it's usually like some bullshit, like they want to look good or they just don't know what's going on. You know what I mean?
So John was high for the entire production of Small Engine Repair.
John Bernthal probably was, but not.
Have you ever seen? You don't have to name names, but seen actors who just perform better when they're high, or?
You know, I've never not like, so I'll tell you a funny story is, you know, we did this play, right? And it was this late night thing and we were deep into the run and we were like huge success. And we had a show just for our friends. It was invite only. It was like a late, like we had one matinee or for this, which is like, this is not the material you want to see at 1 PM. But we had like a Saturday at 11 o'clock performance. We filled it. There was like 100 people in the audience and just friends who people had known. At this point, the play had become like the it show in LA and had been running. And Bernthal was leaving soon to do Walking Dead. And we did a substance specific performance. Every shot, every beer, every smoking all the weed, all of it was just real.
Nice.
just to see what would happen. It was a shit show. I mean, we got through it, but like it was like everyone was fucked up. I didn't smoke weed because I wouldn't even remember my lines, but like I was pretty drunk.
Yeah.
And then there's like a fight at the end, and I remember having to stop, and I was like, and like everyone was just dying laughing and stuff because it was, man, a lot of actors, you'll talk about the story is there, like if there's drinking involved in the scene, whether it's a play or a movie, a lot of times they'll be like, yeah, we did a rehearsal drunk, and it's a shit show. It's so antithetical to what it is, but it's still fun, and maybe you can discover some shit. But mostly,
that's how we get through this show, Ben.
Yeah, that is true. That is how we get through it. And I didn't know that this went all the way back to when he was on Walking Dead. That's this one goes way back.
Yeah, man. He was in between Walking Dead season 1 and 2.
Okay.
And he did like maybe the second or third reading of the play. And he came up to us after, he's like, man, I really want to do this. And I was like, dude, you're doing this TV show. You really want to do this like non-paying, like late night small theater thing? And he's like, hell yeah. So the funny thing is he was in trouble because he had gotten into like an altercation with a guy, and he was in a lawsuit because he had like knocked this guy out or tried to steal his dog.
Oh, God.
And just thought he was some bum. And then then he saw him like in a poster, and he's like, wait, I'm gonna fucking sue that guy. So John was dealing with all that shit. He couldn't leave LA. He's like, what am I gonna do? And then it was like Kismet, you know what I mean? That's like the thing came up. So we got lucky in that. And then, Walking Dead 1 was obviously a hit, but it took a while to really crescendo. Yeah. Walking Dead 2, his star really, really rose. So it was really like, I've known the guy, I've been close friends with him since then, and he hasn't had that kind of time since that moment. So we really
he got him in a low spot.
Yeah, no, it's true. Lucky us.
Good timing. But yeah, I mean, obviously you can check out Small Engine Repair. I know it's on Prime Video. Where else is that? Is it on everywhere?
I think it's kind of anywhere that you can buy it. It seems like overwhelmingly people go to Amazon Prime. For whatever reason, that's where I buy most of my movies. Some people like a couple people, but theoretically it's on all of the like buying type platforms.
All the buying stuff, guys. But yeah, we like to have on, filmmakers, actors, critics to come on and talk about a movie that perhaps inspired them, one of their favorite movies. And you chose 1989 Spike Lee film, Do the Right Thing. It might be someone's first choice of doing a Spike Lee movie for us. Perhaps.
I think so,
which is great. So first of all, why did you choose this movie?
Look, I mean, I love the movie, obviously, but more importantly, I feel like what I remember most about that is how it made me feel when I saw it, and the complexity of emotions that it brought to me. I'm Italian, and I remember being like, Danny Aiello's character reminded me so much. Yeah, there you go. So much of my dad. And I didn't grow up in a particularly diverse area. And it was like really, to me, what art should do, which is like put you in someone else's shoes. And I loved how the Mookie character that Spike plays is not an angel. He's a complicated guy. And it showed everybody. It just showed race relations in a way that I don't think I ever would have had dramatized to me. And and then like just on a specific level,
I think we lost John.
The music, I was way into Public Enemy of that, the humor, the heart, the terror, and the complexity of it. I mean, I would say there's a direct line between Do the Right Thing and Small Engine Repair in the sense of feeling emboldened to create a very morally complicated and ambiguous ending. So if Do the Right Thing had buttoned itself up and Mookie had hugged him at the end and they made it work, I would have probably felt better in the moment, but it wouldn't have stood the test of time and the longevity and caused me to rewatch it and really see how that movie affected me as I aged in different parts of my life. And certainly as I lived in more urban areas and like met more diversity than I was growing up around. And I was like, I want to create something like that is resonant, maybe to the detriment of people wanting it to be a quote unquote movie, but to have that provocative, sizzle to it. So that very much started with that experience.
I'm sure. Yeah. And you bring up how, Mookie is such a he himself is a complicated character. You might think of him as the protagonist in this film, but really I don't think there is a protagonist, antagonist. Like everyone has their shows. Everyone have some sort of prejudice. Everyone have some sort of, flaw, but also good qualities as well. It's there's a lot of depth to all these characters, and the way Spike Lee decided to tell the story was very unique, especially for 1989. I can even see Tarantino getting influences even from this movie
definitely.
Alone. Yeah, this is
John, I'd like to raise something with you because this came up a few episodes ago with White Men Can't Jump, and it's something we feel like we keep saying when this comes up in different episodes, which is this movie couldn't be made today, particularly when there are important movies that really do speak to the things you mentioned and why you picked this movie. What do you just think of that idea when people say that, and what does that mean about film and and the state of our culture?
Well, I mean, that's not an easy answer, but I would say this: it's fucking hard to make anything.
Yeah,
it's hard to make anything. Can you make? You can make it. I mean, look, I made Small and Repair. I made a movie that to me is deeply thematic in a deeply progressive in terms of its ideas, but it uses language in situations that you're not supposed to use. But I made it. You know what I mean? Is it showing on 3,000 theaters? No, but for that budget level, and when you take a swing like that, it's just not going to happen. Now, there's the question is like, would the market support something like Do the Right Thing now? Would distributors or whatever take a chance like that? I mean, I don't know, but I think Spike would have made it anyway. I think you can make it. It's just, how will it get out there? Now, look, you can make a movie like we did for a small amount of money that's edgy as fuck, and like, people who love that movie fucking love it and they get it. And then some people are like, whoa, I'm triggered. You can't say that. It upsets me. And you're like, that's fair.
That's great. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, right. Well, first of all, to back up a little bit, I come from theater, which is provocative, which is like your intent is to challenge the audience as much as the culture. Like when the lights go down in a play, specifically the kind of plays that I always like to write, you should feel squeamish. You should feel complicit. You should feel fucking something, and not just leave and be like, wow, I feel really proud of myself for seeing this. You know what I mean? That's like Do the Right Thing. You don't sit there, and it's not like an easy story. It challenges you no matter what color you are and where you're from. So you leave that and you're like, wow, that's art, and it causes discussions and all this other stuff. It's not a passive experience. But look, unfortunately, I think the people who ultimately pay the money and make decisions are much more risk aversive than they were in the past. I think social media has created a really unfortunate echo chamber of maybe a small amount of people having an opinion, which again, like when you make shit, you want people to have a strong opinion. You know what I mean? You want them to.
Yeah.
You want to serve somebody a meal and they're like, holy fuck, a tear rolls down. Like, this is the best food I ever had. Or to taste it and be like, oh my God, what is that? Like, that's cool. I'll take that, as opposed to being like, it's pretty good. Everything else is closed. You know what I mean? Like,
when something sticks in your mind, you get your gears churning. I mean, that's almost the thing. That to me, that's a movie. We mentioned the superhero stuff. They're good for what they are, but you don't like. I mean, at least I don't sit and think about Spider-Man's whatever problem he overcame. But something like a recent movie was Dune. That one just kind of stuck in my head. This movie is in my head because at the end, which we'll certainly get to, it's kind of really. You're kind of left with almost nothing, sort of some possible options for the future. It's not really clear what exactly happened, who's to blame, who's not to blame, and that's just kind of shitty life. And but it did enough to. And it's interesting because this film certainly has a point of view. We all know Spike Lee has a very strong point of view, but he plays the movie very fair. I think. I think he is. You have to be an active participant in watching that Do the Right Thing. I think that's the takeaway, and I think it asks really hard questions. And really hard questions do not have an answer you can solve in necessarily an hour and 40 minutes or whatever. Yeah.
You can create an experience of that. But look, the hard thing in the social media age is that you cannot please everybody. No. You just can't. I've had to remove myself from so much of that because, like, I'm sensitive. Like, I don't want to willingly upset people or whatever, but especially earlier on, it's like, I got to get off Twitter basically because people be like, I love peanut butter. And I'd be like, what the fuck, you Nazi? You like peanut butter? So I get it. You hate black people or whatever. You know what I mean?
Right,
You're like,
yeah.
no, that's not what I'm saying. Or conversely, you know what I mean? Like the extremes, you're just like, holy shit. It's just people arguing. You know, man, I gotta tell you what I think social media is. Remember that movie, that Mel Gibson movie, What Women Want, man?
Yeah.
Remember how you could like read women's mind? And at first he's like, this is cool, but then it became a curse.
Yeah.
I think that's what social media is. You're like, wow, we communicate, but now it's like, I don't want to know every fucking thought you have.
Well, and it's too, John. You saying Mel Gibson, I think, just triggered people. So, you know, it's, but that's where we are.
By
today.
the way, I'm not one to say that. Like, look, it's complicated to me. Look, you have consequence.
Right.
I think that there's a difference. There's a huge difference to me in the art you create.
I was just busting balls, by the way.
No, I totally. But look, dude, I think it's an important thing. I think it's a very important thing. Yeah. There's a huge difference between the art you create, and who you are as a human being. And I mean, I noticed this. I had this problem since I was a kid. I mean, I started writing like graphic Stephen King-esque horror stories when I was, you know, in junior high or high school. Oops, I lost your buddy.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. It's all right. I'm still here.
We don't need to see Ben. Go ahead. Go ahead.
He's just so handsome. I like staring at his eyes.
Yeah, I agree. That's why I just got to sit here.
So mesmerizing. So, like, I remember early on, as people you'd create a character who would do something reprehensible or weird or whatever, and they'd be like, "I can't believe you think." And I'm like, I have so little interest in creating art that regurgitates my own point of view. Like, if I had myself in something, it'd be kind of boring, you know what I mean? Like, but you want to create extremes of it. So it's just dangerous when you judge someone's art as trying to be some sort of propagandist viewpoint of that. So I think that's bullshit. That being said, I think everyone's entitled to their opinions on things, you know what I mean? And I think, look, some people are going to react one way, some people are going to react that other way. You just got to put it out and see what happens. I think the hard part is, if you're trying to create art that everyone loves, which to some extent maybe those Marvel movies are, so when you want everyone to like it, but by the way, they don't. Because isn't there someone mad at like Spider-Man's costume and shit? No matter what.
Oh, totally, it's not accurate. Whatever. He said some line that doesn't conform to the canon. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I always try to look at like the loudest critical voices out there are typically people who are upset about something else, and they're not necessarily creating or productive in their own lives, and then they're fixating on these other things.
Well, I do think we have stared too deep into the abyss, and even me, I admit I am a Twitter addict, but it does kind of make you a little bit schizophrenic when you just you read especially popular news stuff, and there's like half the replies are one way, half the replies are the other, and you kind of get into the you're like, how can these people be so different and be so sure of their opinion?
Oh, exactly. And I mean, and the truth is they're not. And to me, that's so antithetical to art. I mean, look, the nature of drama is conflict. And what is conflict is two people at least disagreeing with something and having different reasons for those disagreements. And like, if you have two people like that, it's impossible for me to create conflict without having some sort of thematic a material that's going to be offensive to somebody at some point. I mean, it's just, and it's so hard to create shit that I just have to take that equation out and be like, look, in my soul, I know that I want, and I love people, although I don't, maybe people as general disappoint me a lot, but as an individual person in love and like to me, I lean towards the side of that. But like, I like my shit to be rough and complicated and draw blood. And I think, to the point, to go back to Spike Lee, is he created all of those characters are flawed. And I don't use flawed as like a pejorative thing. I mean, flawed as in that's what people are.
Yeah.
They're complicated. And even John Turturro's character, who says awful things, but he's also like, you kind of get him and he's clear and he makes sense. And he says what he wants to say to Mookie. When Mookie's like, yeah, but a lot of black people, your favorite, musicians and athletes, they're black. That's a profound moment to me as a viewer. But if the movie ties it up and John Turturro character is like, you know what, you opened my mind. You're right. You know what that does? And this was the DNA in the construction of Small Engine Repair, was if the characters have that, then I don't.
Yeah.
Because it's raw and ragged, I have to figure it out. oh my God, you didn't spoon feed it to me. You didn't tell me Mookie. Because look, I mean, think about it. There's like, you could have a real dialogue about why did Mookie throw that trash can through that glass? Did he do it to prevent a riot, to save him? Did he do it out of anger? There's a number of reasons.
What do you think?
I mean, it's different. I just watched it recently knowing we were going to talk about it and loved it all over again. And
I love that because sometimes people don't watch the movie that they pick. Just real quick.
Oh, really?
So thank you, yes.
I didn't want to look like an idiot. I was like, I don't want but I feel like he probably did it to prevent to turn the crowd's anger away from Sal. That's how I read it. But I do think it's more complicated than that.
Yeah, it's not black and white.
But I don't think he's like, fuck this guy, I've been waiting to do this.
Right.
You know, because then he shows up and he's like, where's my money? Where's my money? He's not like, again, it's like audiences, look, you can't give the audience what they want. You got to give them something, at least to me. Like, I like to be like a trickster, a little more devilish if I can be, and subvert it. And that's what that whole movie is about, subversion, like all this stuff. And these colorful, beautiful characters that you just love. And they're like real. I mean, look, Mookie is like a shitty dad.
Right.
Like that adorable little son he has. He's barely around ever. He's just barely there. But like, that's real. And it's like not trying to sugarcoat it, or like, there's a saying that I forgot where I read it in some book. They're like, the collective IQ of the audience, as soon as the lights go down, the IQ goes up. And a lot of stuff that I find so pandering, which I mean, like, I really wish I could speak off the record and talk about some movies, but like, I never know when to work in that sort of space with those people. But like some things that are so infantizing and simplifying because they think, oh, this is what you want to hear. Yeah. I see it a lot, to your point. And what's happening right now is there's, in this virtue signaling moment to create, positive minority characters, which, look, I'm all for representation, but you have to treat those characters with the same laws of drama that you would anyone. So it doesn't mean
otherwise they're just a shell of something else. Make them real, right?
They're representative of something else. And again, I look at Do the Right Thing as the sort of, the gem of that, which is those characters are all fucked up and flawed, and everyone. But by the way, he didn't make Saul and his sons a bunch of cartoon characters who were like the bad white guys. They weren't. They were deeply, and they had, and even that beautiful moment with Mookie's sister, where Sal goes in, and it's borderline. Is it kind of creepy, or is he just playing nice? Like he's enamored by her. She gets what it is. And it's kind of a beautiful moment. He's like, don't fucking talk to my sister that way. Who's right? None of them.
It's almost, there's a lot of moral ambiguity.
Ambiguity. I hear what you're saying.
Thank you.
No, let him sink.
he loves when I just try to get the word out. There's a lot of that saying I just said in this film, which I think is great. It's Game of Thrones has always been praised for that, and it's just like, each character has their moment. It's like of being, oh, they're kind of a dick, or and then being the moment of, oh, they're definitely a good guy. It's that,
right.
It's
it's funny, man.
human.
I sort of, working in theater, I sort of developed that muscle for a very practical reason. And when I started writing plays initially, I was in a theater company and comprised of friends and people I knew from my drama conservatory. And I was like, I'm writing a play and I'm giving so-and-so a role. And one, they're going to work for free on my play. Two, they're going to like carry, lights and props and all this shit. Like their role has to be meaty enough or they're going to be like, go fuck yourself. I'm not working. You know what I mean? Like you're not paying them. So it's going to have that. But that's actually a good muscle to have, because like ideally in a story, you're not filled with just peripheral characters with one main character. It's like ideally everyone's in their own story. Now, I'm not saying somebody with two lines has to have a whole backstory, but like ideally they came from somewhere, they're going somewhere, they have a point of view, and they have all that. You know what I mean?
And I think almost every character in this movie, even those minor ones, you get a sense of all of that. To that point, John, I feel like the guys outside just sitting in the lawn chairs having their little conversations, and this movie's kind of just like a series of vignettes, but it's happening in one neighborhood, so it all does kind of come together and you get a sense of the place. But everybody is so real in this, and it's amazing looking back at like, wow, I know that actor, I know that actor, I know that actor, I know that actor.
No, and you know, to your point, I think, and again, this is something else I cribbed, is like he spends a lot of time laying out the masonry work, the foundation for what will happen when things take a very swift turn. Yeah, it's a slow burn. But if he didn't take the time to hang out with these characters and to be like, I'm kind of part of this neighborhood. You know, if it just like a lesser writer director would have jumped in and, you know, splashed it in the second scene. There's a cop shooting somebody or whatever.
Yeah, because it's a little lighthearted at first. You know, you get that, you know, comedy.
Which is what it's like to be in that neighborhood. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, there's tension, and it's getting hotter, and the heat is getting hotter. But everyone loves each other. They're all being cool. But he's like, hey, man, you got to put up pictures. And he's like, you're gentrifying. Like, it's stewing up. It's building, it's building, it's building. And then it bursts. Yeah. But if you watch that movie again and you know where it goes, you'll see those breadcrumbs are laying out throughout. And it's brilliant in that sense, you know?
Yeah, definitely. And I love how the backdrop is basically Sal's Pizzeria in this movie. I mean, that's the backdrop is this Italian pizzeria that has conflict within that family, but then there's conflict coming from the community, but also there's love coming from the community. Like, it's like this, you know, back and forth, you know, type of thing, which I think is just
they all have they're not just sitting, you know, there's never two characters on the screen at the same time in that movie that are agreeing with each other. No. They're always at each other. And it's just hilarious. By the way, like, that's how my household I grew up in, and that's why it's easy to write dialogue, is like, you answer a question with another question. Like, where are you going out tonight? Well, I don't know. What's for dinner? You know what I mean? You're going to wear those pants? Is that how you're doing your hair? Like, it's just boom, 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 boom. So it's not ever just like relaxed. And that's what he has. Yeah. You know, that sense of constant, like, it's so good. I mean, look, dude, it's interesting, I think, for me at least, again, growing up where I did and not being really surrounded by a very racially diverse area in New Hampshire. It wasn't until I moved to New York City. And it wasn't by any means that I understood things. I couldn't meet some random black person and be like, I get your struggle. But a movie like that and seeking out material like that with an open heart and an open mind, that's the power of art and of movies is making you live in that skin and feeling like just a kinship. Yeah. And there's no other way to do that. There's not nearly any other effective way of doing that. It has to be done so skillfully as he did, you know.
I was thinking, you know, just to go back maybe to this, just the Sal's Pizzeria thing. The movie is in such conflict with itself. And by the way, Danny Aiello, holy crap, the guy's like jumping off the screen and into my couch. He's so amazing in this movie. But it's like Danny Aiello, his kids, like you said, Ben, his kids are like, no, we gotta get out of this neighborhood. He's like, no, I've been here for 25 years. Some are good, some are bad. Whatever. This is our place. I'm not going anywhere. This is my whole life. You've got the people in the neighborhood who, you got the one character, the Giancarlo Esposito character, trying to organize a boycott, and the rest of the neighborhood's like, no, he's got good pizza. We all come here.
Yeah, we grew up on that pizza. Yeah, no, man. And look, I think that, you know, a lesser filmmaker or more like pedantic storytelling would make Sal's Pizzeria like just a completely bad gentrifying thing, you know, and it's showing that. By the way, man, I lived in an all black neighborhood with my family for, you know, almost 6 years. And Spike was right. It's like, this is not a community that is like, hey, fuck you, you're white, leave, like a shitty movie would do. It's like, can you be a cool neighbor? You know?
Right.
And if you can, cool, we're fine. But it's like, if you start wanting to impose your thing, because that's what Sal's Pizzeria is there, but like where the heat of the day is creating that racial friction, it's not like it's like the places where they're butting up against each other and they rub each other raw. And it's pretty much the movie is saying it's the places that we are like immobile, that we're inflexible, where, you know, fucking A, man, put a picture of Malcolm X up there, you know?
Yeah.
Be cool. Be like, I'm not going to die on this hill. Maybe I don't immediately see your point. Put that up and then maintain peace. It's like, we all got to live together. We all got to do that.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it's my store. We're not putting it up in my store because I'm Sal, and that's it.
Well, and that's it. And his inflexibility led to that or started that. And the same with, you know, Radio Raheem is like, I'm not going to lower my music. Well, they all like, Sal has a point. Like, look, dude, I'm selling food here, man. You can't have this music so fucking loud.
Yeah.
Right? But he doesn't have to slam the thing. And it's just because it builds, because nobody is bending. But like, you know, they're all...
It turns into a domino effect and everything.
Well, and that's good writing, because if your character has come from a point that is understandable, and maybe you wouldn't do that, but as an audience member, it's clear to you their motivation. That's great. And then what Spike did is he created all of these clear motivations and put them together in this thing, and showed the hypocrisy and the beauty of those. I mean, look, man, I get so excited talking about it. I just rewatching it, I was like. But to your point, man, it is a little bit sad, because you're like, fuck. I mean, I wouldn't go so far as to say they couldn't make that movie today, but like it came out when it should have come out, and it came out before people were having the conversations they're having now. It predates that so much, and it shows you how bold, how much of an M80 thrown in the middle of a room that movie was.
Yeah, absolutely. And because I mean, you look at that whole situation. It's like. One token, you're thinking Sal, definitely I don't blame him for smashing that radio, but that at the same time it's just like, all right, let me de-escalate the situation. Just say, okay, I'll put a picture up, just get out of the store, whatever, I'll put a picture up, like.
Well, and then when you're not seeing it, and what I think that look, someone a black person who has a much different experience would be like, walk into that Sal's, they're already frustrated,
right?
Other stuff, and then I think this is time and time again. What is to me? Look, I'm not gonna pull punches. I feel really gut punched in the way the country feels right now in terms of the division, and so much of that I think lies in our inability to humanize each other and like really just like look at someone else's perspective, and be able to live like they did in that neighborhood without completely agreeing on everything, but they lived. Now they all agreed on one thing, is that they loved the neighborhood and they were there. That's all. And then they respected each other until their own sort of needs were more important than respecting one another. And that's when shit hit the fan.
Yeah. That's a great point. And I again, Spike Lee, amazing job.
Yeah.
Showing
and even the way the camera moves in that, the music, just the energy of it, so fucking good, man, so good.
What about the first 5 minutes of Rosie? Just the first 5 minutes of the movie is Rosie Perez dancing. It's basically a music video. What did we think of that? I thought it was great.
Man, in revisiting it, I knew she did it, but I forgot it was how long it was. I loved it. It was gorgeous. I was like, it was very theatrical. I thought it was fucking awesome.
I know.
First time I saw it, I was like, take it or leave it, although I loved the song. I was like, when's the movie starting? But now I'm like, it's genius.
The style is very experimental, right, John? I would say.
Oh, yeah. No, I think he is a student. Like I see Spike doing some things that as a director, I'm like, okay, that's part of my evolution and going forward, which is he paints in a cinematic brush. So he has all the things like, I had advice from a director as I was gearing up for this. And, I'd worked as an actor and a writer on many movies, but my first time directing. And this director had said to me, he's like, you just don't know what kind of director you're going to be. Once you do that, you can build everything around it. So I feel Small Engine Repair showed me, okay, that's the kind of director I am. And then I see someone like Spike Lee, how they take like his strengths and he builds on them, and what it was to me is like, okay, doing what I know is in my comfort zone, the characters, the naturalism, the reality of that. But then how do I go then in my next thing, make it a little more cinematic, to take some of the cinematic choices that Spike did. Now you have more money and you have that stuff, but to just tell something with a camera move in a moment that is, it's just joyous. And it I don't know, if you, my whole fear of that as an artist, to be quite frank, is a lot of times I'm like, if you don't do it right, it takes you out.
Right.
And there were 2 or 3 crazier shots I did in Small Engine Repair, the movie. I had to cut them out because they just fought against the naturalism of the piece.
Right.
So then it would be like, well, how do you integrate them? And how
there's a difference. You gotta kind of balance between, do I want to be stylistic here? Is it gonna move forward the story, or is it just being stylistic for.
Well, how was it in
stylistic
service
sake.
of it? And that's how Spike really struck a balance in that of all the style is really servicing the story and the themes in a really remarkable way that I'm like, in revisiting it, it really kind of inspired me.
And
There's real authorship.
Yeah.
This isn't just some other movie by someone, anyone, you're like.
Not anybody could have done that. Not like
Spike
somebody
Lee,
else taking the script and doing it. Yes. They couldn't have done it. And there's like elements of Scorsese there or, Truffaut or whatever, any number of directors that Spike Lee has like been inspired by, but then he creates his signature look.
Speaking of Scorsese, how about Frank Vincent in this?
I know, right?
What are you guys doing?
With his Cadillac, oh my God, that's hilarious.
It's an antique.
You gotta just turn around, Frank. There's nothing good for you in that street.
I know, right? How great is Frank Vincent?
I know, it's hilarious.
But there was so many of those like New York actors that were in that movie. You know what I mean? Like,
and then the next year, him and Samuel L. Jackson were in Goodfellas, and
is that right?
Yeah, they were both in Goodfellas. So
I read an interview from Spike Lee talking about he was like acting in that scene with John Turturro. The scene about the black athlete scene, and he was like, Spike's like, I'm not really an actor. He's like, I'm a storyteller, I'm a director, but he's like, John Turturro is an actor.
Yeah. And
how intimidated he was in that. And he's like, how easy he made. Sorry, my dog's getting
Hi, puppy. It's okay. I love dogs here.
What's the matter with you? and he was like so complimentary and like, God, this guy's such a great actor. I love being in that scene with him. And it was like, that's the key also to Spike Lee, because we know Spike Lee as like the social justice guy and the filmmaker and this, but you're like, the guy loves art. And he loves actors. So he sees John Turturro and he's like, this guy's a great actor. Doesn't matter that he's Italian or he's white or whatever. Like, we're all pushing the boulder up the hill in the same direction. And again, not that a black filmmaker can't work with anything, but I'm just saying in this moment of being so sort of obsessed with identity and things, it's cool to see Spike be like kind of scared to work with John Turturro as an actor. I thought that was really endearing to everybody.
Yeah. And then a couple quick things. John Savage is in this for like 2 seconds from Deer Hunter fame.
Really? I missed that.
He's
he's got a Celtics jersey.
Yeah, and the Larry
that was him.
Bird.
I didn't even recognize him.
Yeah, he's in it for like 2 seconds.
The Larry Bird.
Yeah,
amazing.
And then Rick ALO is Danny's son. He plays the cop that kills Radio.
That's
Radio
crazy.
Rahim.
That giant dude is his son, huh?
Yeah, I just found that out looking at IMDb. So there you go, folks. I'm learning things as we go. And then kind of wrapping this up here. What are your thoughts on Mother, Sister, and Demare? What do you think they represent in this film?
It's interesting. What they represent, like, I mean, I think that they were sort of from a different era, obviously, probably representative of the elders that Spike grew up with and how they're transitioning to it. And sort of how, to me, I watched that and I was like, well, that's the older generation who learned how to live in the system. Mother, Sister was like, fuck this system, I'm cynical. And the mayor was like, like the court jester, right? and getting through, both kind of broken. And then all of the chaos of this new world and the riots. By the way, they had lived through riots in their youth.
Yeah, that's true.
And here we are again. And I just got them as more of like sort of the black history of it, and they lived through it and it didn't go away. And they've seen that neighborhood start up and do what it is. And they've been like bore witness to all of that. And I thought that they're, again, complicated, wise characters who were, bringing in this other era to both see how little things have changed as a commentary and how that danger is always evident for them. And really what brings that community together is the death of Radio Rahim, where it strikes such a nerve with them. That it's like, years of all this trauma coming back and including, those characters who were like,
and then just how sad it is to now be, the generation in 1989 seeing it happen now in 2020, 2021, like the things that are still going on. It's just like, man, like,
well, and look, man, I know some of Spike's more recent movies have been, in my opinion, a little heavy-handed in telegraphing the sort of, that message. But, in the perfection of Do the Right Thing, it just kind of laid it out. By the way, we wouldn't be having this conversation if it wasn't like a brilliantly done movie.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So that's the hard thing is like, in the theater world, it happens a lot, and it happens in films too, is that the productions end up being primarily about theme. And then second and third, it's about, plot and characters. And,
sure.
To me, that's not going to sustain itself. It's just not. It's rhetoric. Yeah. It's not creating a dramatized version of something so exquisitely done.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And in the end of the movie, is if things weren't ambiguous enough or conflicting enough throughout all the characters and everything they said and did on both sides, we're left with two somewhat conflicting quotes. One from Martin Luther King and one from Malcolm X. And so we're just left with... And as Ben said, you're here reflecting upon a movie made 30 years ago, and, we're all... I mean, we're just here.
But you think about how much more resonant those quotes are because you have seen and lived through the experience of those characters. Like, you could put that quote on anything. Like, you could put that quotes at the end of a shitty movie, and they're still good quotes. But because of the journey we're on, he offers these two different viewpoints, and you're like, wow. Like, it'd be interesting. Like, if you've never seen that movie and then you see it, like, have someone read those quotes. What do they think? Watch the movie and read those quotes. And to me, that's like the beauty of that sort of journey that movie brings you on. Is you read those two and you're like, wow.
Yeah,
I see how that's applicable. But more importantly, there's no easy answer for this.
No.
The only real answer there is the movie's requiring you to be an active participant in these discussions. You're a human being. You're an American, white, black, whatever. This is an American problem. And it's like we all have to engage in it. And it's like, be there. We can live in harmony and love one another. But it's going to take some effort. It's not a passive activity.
No.
Yeah, that's what's great about Spike Lee in his early career. It's like, I'm presenting you the facts. You can, what this means to you. Is that what it means to you? Like, I'm not specifically saying what I'm meaning by all this. I'm just laying this out for you, It's,
and I always think that's a better way to go, and I know, like,
absolutely.
Scorsese, who's another one of my favorite filmmakers, which I could easily have done like Goodfellas, but that's I'm sure been done a million times. Yeah. But Scorsese, like, it's very clear that Goodfellas is not an endorsement for organized crime or anything like that. Just as I think that, Wolf of Wall Street is a dissection of greed, but that doesn't mean the characters can't be dynamic and the moments can't be funny and thrilling and complicated and all that stuff. Because, by the way, that's why you watch it and you do that. So I just don't buy that. I think that's the horse shit of, like, you have to spoon feed an audience. You know that, he's the bad guy. Okay. Because that lets you off the hook, man. You can exactly watch it. It's like my kid who's 6. When he watches everything he watches, he's like, which is the bad guy? Is he the bad guy? She's the bad guy. Okay. Because at that age, they need to know it. But, when you're in a nuanced, real cinema, you don't necessarily need to know it.
You see, son, there's this thing called moral ambiguity. And then just one last thing I had, for me, I feel like, I'm glad Sal and Mookie had their last moment, but I think it would have been more powerful to just end it right when Smiley put the picture on the wall, end it there. But I get why he had those final scenes.
It's interesting. I mean, you never know, because it certainly feels like the end of the movie there, and the rest is like, structurally, it's a resolution in every sense of the word. It's like. The movie's done, but
it took a lot of balls to ask for your paycheck, Mookie. No,
but to me that fed into his thematic point, which is like, hey, life still has to come on.
Yeah, that's
we all got to show up the next day and sort through the ashes. And
well, and it shows his character by just he gave him 500 and he said, no, I get 250 here. I owe you 50. I mean, he still ends up taking the money, but but he had that. Idea.
Well, because those characters they're the characters first, and then they are their ethnicities, and then they are all these other things. But at that moment, it's like they're the characters. And yes, I think that's the point. Life goes on, and
I don't know, man. You bust my window. I would have done what Danny Aiello do early in the movie. Well, that's like twice.
Oh my god, that was hilarious.
I got it, son. I got it.
But you can repair a window. Radio Raheem's never coming back, and it's like,
yeah.
But at the same time, you're like, if you really look at it, the movie's not saying that Sal directly caused his death, but it was Sal not maybe understand. It was just complicated, man. And that's the truth. That's the fucking truth, man. It's complicated.
Domino effect, and it's the nature of the beast. But no, I'm so glad you chose this film. It's powerful. It still resonates today. And any final thoughts, guys, that you wanted to mention?
No, just echo Ben. Great choice, John. Great meeting you.
Cool. Good meeting you too, guys.
Yep. So I know you're off social media. It seems like, dude. Is there a way people can
everybody?
Yeah. Is there a way people can find you, follow you, or any of that?
Not really. I'm on Instagram. You can find me on Instagram.
Okay.
But
just find me.
Whatever. Just watch my movie.
Yeah, just watch the fucking movie. That's the thing. You want to just watch the movie, isn't it true though, to some extent? Like, I know that's a game, but like, now you gotta fucking know everything about everybody. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I used to love that shit because when I was in theater and it was like low budget theater, I could use Facebook or Twitter or whatever to get the word out. Sell tickets. Right. Hey, this thing's happening tonight. Come on.
Yeah. That's that's why I use Twitter for this podcast to say, hey.
If I'm the reason that if my social media is the thing that's going to get people to go to the movies, it's like, we're fucked.
We're screwed.
You got someone like Bernthal who has like 7 million followers. Like, when he posts the trailer, people see it. But
yeah.
I don't know. You want to come find me on Instagram? Just look at pictures of my kids and my dogs.
Yeah,
sounds good.
I hear you. Well, John, it's been a pleasure. Hope people go see Small Engine Repair or watch it at the leisure of their own home now. So
it's a pandemic. There you go. So
yeah, exactly.
I didn't do it.
Thanks so much for coming on, John.
All right, guys. Thank you. Appreciate it. Have a good day.
Well, there you have it, folks. Another episode in the books. Had a great time talking with John. Great guy. And definitely check out Small Engine Repair if you haven't done so already. Again, you can follow us on Twitter at BlockbusterCast, Instagram at Blockbuster Mentality. Go to our website, blockbustermentality.com. That's all the places you can get updates on the show when new episodes come out and all that fun. Check out our YouTube channel as well. We try to put up episodes on there as well. We're more successful audio version, but hey, we try with YouTube. I need to promote it more, but so much time in a day. But that is it for me, folks. For Dave and John, I'm Ben, and as always, grab some popcorn, grab some snacks. We'll catch you guys at the movies.